She never missed a day. Not for sickness, not for weddings, not even the day her father died. Claire had been at that desk gray, metallic, sharp-edged like the life she lived for 19 years and for months. She knew because she counted. Every morning, she crossed off a little box on a piece of paper taped to the inside of her locker, like a prisoner marking time, like someone hoping that one day the pattern would make sense. Claire worked in compliance at a mid-sized insurance firm, a job so invisible that most of her colleagues couldn't even explain what she did. She wasn't the type to correct them, not because she didn't care, but because at some point it became easier not to be seen. Her cubicle was in the farthest corner of the second floor, tucked behind a half wall that nobody bothered to clean. She could hear the hum of the vending machine and the occasional frustrated sighs of her neighbor, Marvin, who had been trying to quit smoking since 2009. They joked once about how the office was where dreams went to decompose, but Claire hadn't laughed. Not really. She used to be a painter. You wouldn't believe it, looking at her hair scraped back into a low bun, monochrome outfits, sensible shoes. But in a closet in her one-bedroom apartment, stacked behind winter coats and tax forms, were canvases filled with color, blazing oranges, electric purples, the kind of boldness she never wore on her face, the kind of freedom she only dared express in silence. But that life felt 100 years away. Ever since the day she accepted the offer, letter the one that promised stability, not joy. She told herself it was temporary, a stepping stone, just until she saved enough to open her own gallery. But rent came, then student loans, then a brother who needed bailing out, then a mother who got sick, and somewhere between the emergency surgeries and the unpaid bills, her dreams packed their things and slipped out the back door. The thing is, nobody at the office disliked Claire. She was fine, dependable, on time, quiet. She was the kind of person you never worried about because you assumed she had things under control, and that assumption was her curse. Once in her third year, her manager pulled her into a meeting and said, "Claire, you're one of our rocks." She smiled politely. What she wanted to say was, "Rocks don't bend, but they do crack." What she wanted to scream was, "Please don't confuse my silence with peace." But she just nodded. Year after year, promotion after meaningless promotion, Claire became more of what the job needed and less of herself. She didn't realize how far she'd gone until the day the office lights flickered, a minor blackout. The system glitched for 30 minutes, the network was down. No emails, no spreadsheets, just silence. People chatted, some laughed. Marvin told a joke about the time he mistook glue for eye drops. Claire stood, walked to the window, and looked out. It had been years since she'd really looked. There was a mural on the building across the street one she didn't remember being there. It was bold, angry, beautiful, and for one brief, unbearable moment, she felt a sob climb up her throat. She didn't cry, but she sat down at her desk and without thinking, opened a new email and typed her resignation. She didn't send it, not yet. But that night, she dusted off one of her old canvases, mixed a shade of red she hadn't touched in a decade, and painted until her fingers cramped, until the sun came up, until her job felt like a place she had to return to, not a world she belonged in. Over the next few weeks, something began to shift. It started small. She declined overtime. She brought lunch instead of skipping meals. She reconnected with an old friend who ran a community arts center. And when her manager asked her to take on yet another project without additional pay, she paused, looked him in the eye, and said, "No." It stunned him, it stunned her, but it also freed her. The email sat in her drafts for another 6 months. She needed time to save, to plan, but most of all to remember who she was before the job became her identity. The day she finally sent it, she printed out a copy and folded it into one of her old sketchbooks. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder, it's never too late to change the story. Even if the first few chapters were written in someone else's ink, Claire didn't open a gallery, not yet. But on Thursday nights, she taught painting classes to women who had forgotten how to dream. And on weekends, she painted by the river, earbuds in, shoes off, sun on her face. She had less money, but she had time. She had silence. And for the first time in years, she felt seen. Her job had been her jail, but she had carved a tunnel, one brushstroke at a time, and now she was free.